Welcome, everyone. I am Pastor Ivy Rivera. This is Roots Revival Interfaith. We are here for another Sunday service. Very glad to have you here. Now, if you can't stay with us the whole time, this will be published afterward on my YouTube channel at Ask Ivy, as well as on Spotify, Pandora. Where else will this go? iTunes.
Yep. You said Spotify, Pandora, iTunes.
Yep.
Those are the big ones. Stitcher. Anywhere you get podcasts, we will be there. So check us out.
All right. So you can go watch later if you need to do that. So I do want to introduce Reverend Christina Del Rey. How are you, Christina?
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Good. And Reverend Danny Johnson.
Hi, I'm excited to be here as well.
Wonderful. And again, Reverend Paul Casey. Now, I want to explain a little bit about what we do here. We are a very different type of a church, and this is mostly because of our belief system, not only in our core values, but also what we reflect on a daily basis. So Roots Revival Interfaith, our mission is to normalize intuition. Our vision is to normalize intuition through the reconnection of our authentic roots, spirit, and intuitive intelligence to evolve ourselves and to heal others. We believe in following universal order and that there are three truths. That is intuitive intelligence, evolutionary astrology, and numerology. Through the study and application of these, knowledge of these truths, it gives the individual understanding and awareness to develop character, integrity, and self-accountability. Every individual's path or life contract is their own, with an accumulation of past life and future destinies. Free will dictates where and how far we will go. We strive to keep individuals at their highest vibrations in their day-to-day lives to become their best possible selves. Energy does not die, it only transforms, and the continuation of life after death shows the evolution of spirit through this process. Right, I do want to open with a quick prayer, so if you guys want to get comfortable. Holy Spirit, we thank you for being here with us today, for working in each and every one of us every single day of our lives. Please bless those that are here with us today and help those that are watching later on to be led to tonight's service at exactly the right time, so that we may receive the message with open minds and hearts to be strengthened on our journeys, to fulfill our true paths in life and be a beacon of light and strength for others. Please send those who have lost their way. Amen.
Amen.
So today I want to talk about where we're headed. So the title for today's sermon is Where Are You Going? Not Where Have You Been? So every day it gets hard. If you are dealing with a lot of change, to keep moving forward. If you are experiencing change in your life because you created it, you can reach many, many points along the way, moving forward, where you second guess yourself. You become double-minded. You start to feel as though you made a mistake. You don't necessarily have an option to go back, but you could definitely sabotage where you're headed and at what pace you use to get there. For those of you who are dealing with change that was put upon you, maybe you didn't want to see the job loss that you're dealing with, or a divorce that you didn't plan for, or change in custody, with your children. A lot of us right now are dealing with this pandemic. So many circumstances have changed. Loss of loved ones, illness, whatever it is. That can be the hardest one to deal with. When change has come upon you and you feel as though you're a victim to the circumstance, not a creator of your own story, not a writer of your own tale, but you are. And while we can't prevent change from happening, nor should we want to, let's be realistic, we absolutely need to take the time to recognize that no matter how this change came about, that it is an opportunity for us to use our free will and dictate how we respond to it. So I want to talk today about a couple tools that we need to be using from an intuitive perspective, yes, but also just from a sort of commonsensical everyday approach. These tools will help you to move forward and to not get stuck looking back, okay? So the first thing is self-awareness. Without self-awareness, without mindfulness, we're basically doomed in this journey. Without being mindful of our own thoughts, our own emotions, our own intentions, we tend to be reactionary and animalistic. We just sort of act out. We may find things to appease our discomfort because humans don't like being uncomfortable. The way to be more comfortable being uncomfortable is through mindfulness. It's through a daily practice of self-awareness so that you understand what it is that you're doing energetically, how it is that you feel, and what your temptations are in reaction to that. We don't want to turn toward escapist or avoidance. We don't want to be drinking, using, even turning toward things like overeating or sex addiction. We don't want to be overindulging, even in things that seem innocent, like, Netflix. We need to be where we are. And when we are capable of admitting where we are, we can start this journey forward. Until that point, you're stuck. Okay? So mindfulness, self-awareness is key. Admit where you are. Number 2, you need to combat negative energies, negative tendencies and habits that you have. So whether you yourself are the problem, you do need to figure that out. Or if it's coming from others around you, you may find that those around you are not as supportive as you would like them to be. You are possibly going through a growth spurt, a potential level up. And that doesn't always match what everyone around you is going through. And that's okay. But don't be manipulated by others around you into stagnancy. Now, we may also see this in our circumstance. Circumstances will tempt you to go backward, to find a comfort zone to stay in. And these behaviors are going to often be cleverly masked under things that are soothing, under other people that are somehow encouraging or comforting to you to have around. You need to be careful, and you need to have a plan to combat the negativity. Number 3, you're going to be tested, and you have to be realistic about those tests. New level, new devil. Every time the bus stops, somebody's got to get off. In order for another door to open, another door has to shut. Those are the laws of the universe. None of us escape this. And we see that when we are approaching a point where we could do so much more with our lives, whether we chose it or not, that change is here. You're going to go through tests. Every single time you start to push in the right direction, a test will appear. I have a free mini class up on my YouTube channel at Ask Ivy called Fighting the Dark that will help you to prepare for these tests. Number 4, you need to look forward. And sometimes that's easier said than done. What are you looking at? Well, first of all, you have to know what you're looking at. Start making a list of what it is that you're moving toward. It doesn't have to be here. It doesn't have to be a guarantee. These are your goals. These are your ambitions. For some of you, these may be your dreams. but have a list in front of you at all times. This is where I'm headed. That will help you to stay focused and prevent you from looking backward at what losses are there, or, you know, what mistakes, what wreckage perhaps has been left in the past that will sort of haunt you. You need to know what the ultimate plan is and have an ultimate plan, of course. Okay. It's also helpful to have things like visual images. If you have pictures, if you have it as your screensaver on your phone, okay, if you have a visual image in your mind's eye at all times that you can rely on when you start to backpedal, and you have that image up around you in the physical world, it will increase your ability to use law of attraction and manifestation in your favor. It also induces another part of law of attraction and manifestation having to do with your feelings and your emotions. We want to talk about manifesting through feeling it, believing it, emotionally, physically experiencing that thing. A visual can help you to do that. Okay. And last, but certainly not least, you do need to look back on occasion, not because you're comparing yourself to others or you're comparing yourself to, you know, where you want to be and how far away you are from it. But sometimes you do need to look back to assess how far you've come, how well you're doing, to pat yourself on the back, to be an encouragement for your own self, and to figure out where it is that you want to revamp your future goals. The more often you take the time to look back and say, look at how far I've come. Look at how the universe is actually supporting me. This is all real. You feel more freedom and liberty to kind of readjust where you're going after that. You're getting your solid footing in faith. Okay. I want to open this up to discussion. And again, you guys feel free to post your questions or comments. We'll be taking them throughout the service. Who wants to get started? Christina.
Yeah, I will. So, you know, we are in a rebuilding process, as Ivy said, and, you know, there are going to be a lot of people who are going to fight for what they are used to. And it's, you know, people will fight for what is familiar, and that just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's for your highest good. And when this change comes, it's very uncomfortable because nobody likes change, and especially people with a lot of fixed signs in their chart do not like a lot of change. But you know, it's inevitable. This wasn't an accident. This was to put you on the right path. And you know, Uranus is the planet of, you know, putting us into the future and quickly moving us. And Saturn is the planet that is saying we have to learn the lesson. So we have those two squaring off this year 3 times. And some of the tools that Saturn would tell you, you know, because through this work, you're going to achieve more freedom. You're going to achieve your goals. But first, I think you have to look at the shadow, you know, the shadow side of yourself, you know, do the shadow work. You know, where do you need to look at your bad habits? You know, like you said, with the bad energy or the negative energy, is it coming from yourself? Mm-hmm. So that you have to look at first and kind of, you know, at least be mindful of it. And then you can start to kind of have a plan of attack for that. Saturn is also hard lessons. You know, it's responsibility, it's restriction. It's saying that you have to grow up and be an adult. You have to follow the rules. You have to put in the hours and be ethical. So all of this is like the current, which is, you know, it's not fun, right? Because it's change and it's work. But down the line, that is where you see those rewards. And, you know, Jupiter is saying, you know, be hopeful, but at the same time, you know, like, you know, ask for signs from the universe, you know, do what Ivy teaches, you know, pay attention to the signs you are given. follow the astrology, follow the numbers. I've been seeing numbers all week, and I've been looking them up because I don't know what they mean. But, and I have to
That's
get
why we have Danny.
Yeah.
To break some of that down.
Yeah. So it's like, while you're on this journey, you're not alone. You have spirit there, but are you going to use spirit? Are you going to take the signs?
I love how you just said that. Are you going to use spirit, or are you going to use your old, clingy negative habits, like blaming every circumstance outside of you for not being enough, blaming other people, trying to convince other people to change, trying to convince other people or situations to give you what you feel you need to feel more comfortable, or are you going to take this other approach where you trust the universe, the bigger system, and you start doing that shadow work? That's excellent.
I strongly, I always appreciate when hearing Christina speak about how the planets are going, how they connect, and the energy that will come from their connection, and appreciate you lifting up the numerology as well. And we'll definitely talk about the numbers too. With regard to numerology, in terms of rebuilding, so there are a couple of kind of like major numbers, like understanding the energy that we are born with, both from our birth date and from the name that we were given. Neither is coincidence. And so there's like a life path number that where there's like numeric energy or a certain energy with each number. And that life path number is essentially letting us know the energy that's waiting for us on the path that we are meant to walk. So when we're rebuilding, to understand naturally what energy is already there for us to be able to use in order for us to rebuild, so that we're able to lean into the natural strength that the universe already gave us. Also, there's an expression number. So in numerology, it's like the life path number is the number representing the path that we're meant to walk. The expression number is the person walking the path. So with our expression number, being able to utilize our full name to calculate our expression number, to understand what energy is with us naturally. Like, is there energy with us that is automatically more disciplined and more willing to do the hard work? Or is the energy with us more creative? Is the energy with us, are we about being humanitarians? So understanding, and I so appreciate what Christine and Ivy talking about, knowing who you are, because understanding how to tap into that natural energy, it will just so help with the flow. And it kind of feels like it relates to alignment. Like when Ivy talks about us being in alignment and in alignment with our life purpose and our life contract, the numeric energy that's with us, that we were born with, is automatically on our life contract as well. So it all is connected. Also, with regard to like surrender, there is a beauty, and there is a heartbreaking joy. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, in surrendering to what is. Because in order for us to rebuild, and in order for us to be able to take advantage of what's on our path and what is waiting for us, we have to surrender to what is, kind of similar to what you both were saying. In the process of surrendering, it's sometimes, and so appreciate Christina, you speaking about fixed signs, because as a Leo, it's like, I'm stubborn, and it's like, I have a plan, and I'm going to work the plan, and I'm going to, no. Sometimes that alignment means surrendering to exactly what is there. And also, with regard to rebuilding, trusting the process. And that's something that I've had to grow into. Again, as a fixed sign, as a Leo girl with like 7 placements in fire, I've had to learn to trust the process and recognize that there are ancestors and guides and angels and orishas and saints all around me, to make sure that once I accept what's there and willing to walk in the path that really, some of which already is destiny charted, that already has been set, in order for me to have, and for all of us to be able to have the best, most fulfilling lives that we can.
And that stepping out is really key to getting our ancestors and our guides and our angels and the saints more involved in our lives. Because when we're not willing to take that step out in blind faith, we are basically saying, I'm not willing to surrender, right? And what does that mean? That means I'm going to come from my ego, fear, control. I'm going to make it happen. Well, there are laws in the light. And one of the laws in the light say that our ancestors, our guides, all of our helpers over there can't enable us. They can't have a codependent, sickly relationship with us. They have to wait. There are boundaries, and they have to wait until you're ready to hold yourself accountable, take responsibility, be self-aware and mindful, and step out in blind faith and do your part. Now, the minute you do that, we see all these blessings activated. We see all of this extra help, you know. And it's not always exactly when we want it, but it's never late, right? And it's in all different areas of life. So I absolutely love that. It is know thyself and surrender to the reality that there is something bigger than you and your ego going on here. And that's where the help comes in. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I think that.
Oh, Christina's.
Yeah, I think that we think that we have control and we don't.
Yeah.
We all love a comfort zone. We all love to be comfortable, but if we stay in that comfort zone too long, it becomes stagnant. Nothing new grows there. It becomes a bad thing. It becomes detrimental to us. And then it makes it even harder to get out of it. So it's so uncomfortable to grow. There's nobody who thinks it's more uncomfortable than me, but yet I find myself, I have to do it.
It's very stubborn. I'm surrounded by Leos, by the way, like top to bottom. They're full of that Leo energy. I do want to say too, that, when Danny said, know thyself, there are so many of us out there that don't seem to really know who we are. Maybe you feel like you don't have a very clear sense of identity. Not only do you not know what direction you're supposed to be going in with your career or your life, you literally don't feel like you know who you are on the inside. And so, how do we come to terms with that? One of the simple things you can do is to look into your intuition. This is what I specialize in. Where does your intuitive intelligence lie? Is it with psychic ability, empathic ability, mediumistic ability? Look at your numerology. This is what Reverend Danny does. Numerology. What are the numbers in your name? What is your life path and your expression number? All these other things. Talk to Christina, who does astrology. To know your chart is to know where you came from and to know where you're supposed to be headed. To know all these 12 different houses and what they mean for your life. This can help tremendously. And there are probably a lot of people who tune into church here, because they connect with some of these elements but aren't really applying them. But those are often the same people that, when you were a teenager, you had the best astrology book ever. You were always looking for patterns and signs and synchronicities. And as a kid, you were very in tune with spirit. But as you get older, you leave it behind. And we need to remember that that wasn't fantasy. That isn't a hobby. It's not some magical, system that is based on airy-fairy ideas. These are real. These are tangible. And these stories tell us who we are. And they give us a roadmap for where we're supposed to be going. We need to take it more seriously. Did you want to say something on this?
Yeah, it's very similar to what Christina was saying last about kind of when you get stuck, and it's, I don't know, when we got this topic, I was thinking like 5 of Cups, and it's everyone, like life and experience and everything is additive, so you get where you are based on everything you have done. And so like you're constantly moving forward and constantly building on what you have, right? But then the second something happens, you change your perspective entirely and you stop and you're like, oh, I can't go on. Or you focus on what you lost instead of, your whole life has been focusing on what you have. And, to rebuild, you have to move forward, but you just stop because it's not what was and you want to go backwards. to where it was safe. And that's not how it goes. And so people just have to, it's tough that you have to look for that, right? But, and what you're saying with the doors, one door closes, another opens, and you find that people get stuck because they're just still focusing on that closed door, and they won't turn around and look what's open, and that's the part, that I say is like the Five of Cups too. It's just turning around. It's seeing, focusing on really what you have, and you can build back on and move forward, so you hit a path here, step sideways and move on that way, build, and, go find that open door. And it's just really turning around and taking a look. It's like you said, mindfulness and like self-awareness, but nobody will do that. They would rather just hunker down, and it's unfortunate because you just have to, sometimes just turn around once.
Right. I think it's interesting too that you're talking about what was lost, and so many times we take what's being left behind, and we're claiming it as a loss, and then we're putting it up on a pedestal like it was so much better than where we're going, and we don't know that. You don't know that. We like to say, well, I don't have a crystal ball. You actually do. And if you looked at it every now and again, you would see that there are possibilities for where you could be headed that are much greater than where you came from, and that the things that we are sometimes required to leave behind are stepping stones, not to be lost necessarily. Did you guys want to add anything else to this?
I just think that we all have to realize that life is evolutionary. You can't stay in one spot. I don't know. Paul, did you ever read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? I don't know if you've ever read that book.
No, but sounds good.
Well, it's really it was a long time ago that I read it, but I kind of remember I don't know, the mice they always went for the cheese right at the same spot, and then they moved it, and they were like, I'm entitled to that cheese. You know what I mean? And I think that we get stuck in that entitlement. No, I was entitled to that. And, and the universe is saying, no, well, you're not really in control because you're not entitled to it. The only thing you're entitled to is to evolve. So, there's so much entitlement now. And I think that, COVID and this pandemic and everything has kind of put us back to being a little more humble. And I know you spoke about that, I think, in our first week, about being more humble and not expecting everything to go your way just because you think it should.
Yeah, we did. We spoke about that. Our very first service, we talked about being humbled, humbling circumstances, and how if that doesn't help you to have an opportunity to become a better person and evolve yourself, then, nothing may. Interesting.
It's funny, right? That, when you get stuck and you want to, say, can't surrender and you're holding on to control, you're not just trying to control the present, you're trying to control the past, which is, impossible. Right. And you're trying to change what had happened and circumstances leading up to where you are now. And it's absolutely impossible. So how was it even part of your mindset? It's
so true.
Yeah. And I think that you can reflect on it and say, okay, I did this wrong, or I did that wrong, or I'm responsible for this portion of it or whatever. And look at, what you did wrong and be aware of it. But unfortunately, you can't change it, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
And when speaking of tarot, I'm kind of relearning and reacclimating myself to it. And one of the cards that really kind of resonated when preparing for tonight is the Tower. So you have that tower that is broken into a million pieces. And when, especially for those of us who are stubborn, who have this structure, and we might even feel the lightning bolt coming, but we still brace ourselves and we think that we can prepare ourselves. Oh, I can put some sandbags up to prepare for this. And then the lightning strikes the tower, and then it breaks into a million pieces. But then the Spirit also offered this quote by Leonard Cohen, where it says, where he says, "In the broken places, the light shines through." So in those broken pieces, once those pieces are broken apart, then God and Spirit and our ancestors have the ability to be able to share what they had been trying to before. And if we were, I think it's kind of what Ivy speak about with our guides. It's the three phases that the guides, our guides, use to get through to us. And sometimes it's like they have to like use that lightning bolt and break things apart so that we're able to see and hold something to make sure that we don't miss what could be a potentially life-changing, life-altering opportunity, because that would be absolutely devastating for us.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that too, because like this week we have Uranus, which is the lightning bolt, coming together with Mars this week. So they're in like Wednesday, and it's considered, I guess, the most surprising day of the year. Of course, it's Inauguration Day. But, you know, for not just a collective level, but on an individual level too, there might be people, depending on their charts, who, you know, do get that lightning bolt this week. And, you know, like we said, Uranus is the planet of putting you in the right direction, even though you don't really want to go, and breaking the pieces, you know what I mean? And you know, and putting you very quickly in the future by surprise. But, you know, and Mars meeting with Uranus, you know, it can be fireworks. It can be like something just kind of blows right up. So that's interesting, because the tower is definitely like Uranus, and that is happening this week. And even on my horoscopes this week, I have lightning bolts on them. So it's just so funny that you said that. But so yeah, this is a powerful week for sure. You know, we all have to stay mindful and use all those tools that Ivy was talking about.
A time for rebuilding. So it's coming one way or another. Yeah, I think this is with huge opportunity. And I think that's the other thing that we really overlook, is that every change holds so much potential, so much opportunity. It's time that we embrace these things. I mean, look at the birth process, look at the death process. When did we ever come under this delusion that things were going to be easy, that they were supposed to be, or that anything big comes out, you know, of something simple? It just doesn't happen that way. There's always some big tower moment.
Or that you have control, right? You don't have any coming in or going
that
out.
illusion.
Yeah.
I don't know how some people still think they got control over things. That's hilarious to me. Okay, so you know, we have control over our reaction. We have control over free will, but destiny charted is a very real thing. You know, we have destiny charted future, we have free will. It's not one without the other, ever, not for a moment. I do want to invite everyone at this point. We are, you know, about halfway through our service. So if you want to start posting your prayer requests or healing requests, they can be for yourself, for someone else in your inner circle, for your community. We'll be taking those here in just a minute. And I do want to invite anyone who is compelled to donate here to Roots Revival Interfaith. You can hit that donation button. It is greatly appreciated. Okay, so they can start doing that, and Paul will keep an eye on that. I just did want to also, while we let everyone post their prayer requests, I wanted to talk about what Danny had mentioned with the guides, the universe, the ancestors coming in and sort of helping us through a bit of a growth process, where we talk about the 3 different levels of change, or in this case, resistance to change. And that lightning bolt, that tower moment. And what did you say it is, Christina? Uranus? Okay.
Yep.
And one of the things that, you know, we talk about is the breaking of the legs, which is the 3rd level of that process that I call the shift. And it's not without warning. You know, when you get to a point in your life where you feel that everything has been taken away from you, stripped, the rug has been pulled out from under you, it is very possible that you have hit that 3rd level. And Spirit is a gentleman. It doesn't just happen that way. There has to be a long, drawn-out process where you were shown repeatedly over the course of several years even. You were shown repeatedly what to do, what to change, who to stop dealing with, you know, what you needed to alter in your career or your education, what you needed to do for your own self-development. And these issues are brought up repeatedly and extensively. There are opportunities for you in great detail to be able to transition out of what's not working. But when you decide again and again and again that you're just going to sort of turn your nose up to that, you will eventually hit that third phase, which is what I call the breaking of the legs. And that is essentially you being put in a gigantic timeout chair. And for those of you that are there, and you would be feeling also that you've been cut off from spirit in some way, you have to know that that's not real. That's not true. But again, what we talked about earlier, you know, spirit cannot abandon the laws of the light. They can't enable you or become codependent or tied up in that type of toxicity. It's not good for you. So the minute you step back in alignment, you will see the flow of repair coming in.
When I first learned about the 3 phases that the guides kind of used to get our attention, it made so much sense, and it is as unexpected as some of those feelings might be, especially if we get to that 3rd stage. It is somewhat comforting, actually not somewhat, it is very comforting to know that the universe has our back in such a way that they want to prevent by any cost us from getting so off course that it would literally take us potentially years to get back into alignment and back onto the path that we're meant to walk. So that is like a little bit of like if we accept it and know that that is God and Spirit's way of making sure that we're okay, that is, it is comforting.
It is comforting. I think it's also comforting to know that the purpose behind all of it is because we have a life contract. We signed on to come to Earth and do certain things. We have a purpose to our life. And when we're just aimless and screwing it up, you know, we're unwilling to let go of the past. We're unwilling to go forward. Sometimes we're unwilling to just do anything. We're just stagnant. You know, that's unacceptable. That's not why we came here. And I think that's also comforting to know that there is a bigger purpose and that it's always reminding us that it's there. It's calling us back to it. Again,
we had a good question here from Alice about surrendering.
Okay, what is Alice's question?
How do you know it's time to surrender, and how not to confuse with to try harder or change the action plan?
That's a great question. I think from an intuitive perspective here, psychic, mediumistic, empathic, how do you know when it's time to surrender and not confuse it with changing up your action plan? I have found that when we understand the system of the universe, the class that I mentioned earlier, go to YouTube at Ask Ivy. Look at my class called Fighting the Dark. Once you've learned that system, you will never be confused again. There is a huge difference between needing to stand your ground and push harder, which typically comes with things like blessings, constant signs and symbols, you being reassured, versus knocking on the wrong door where you normally see everything else around you crumbling. You have a lot of toxic energy and buildup. You have no inner peace about it whatsoever. You have to learn the difference. You have to learn the law of the universe. That class will break it down. There's another free mini class up there called The Still Small Voice. You have to learn the difference between your mental wanting, your logical side of your brain, your emotions, and your intuition. And until we learn these things, we'll not have an answer to that question. So it's all about you doing the self-work.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And there's this phrase called labor of love. And when we have a plan, and if what we're doing is in alignment, if it's something that's in our life contract, that is something that's healthy for us, when Ivy spoke about the class, the mini class, Fighting the Dark, when it's something that's meant for us, even when it's difficult, it still feeds our soul. So even when we have to put in the hard work, and when we are tested and we are asked in multiple ways, is this really what you want? When we work toward it, it still feeds us, and it makes us feel alive, and it makes us feel connected to source. And even when things are difficult, we're given, it's kind of like thinking about almost kind of like a walk or a run, where there are folks on the sidelines who give you cups of water, who cheer you on, who make sure that you're good. Even if your legs are tired and you're sweating and there are people along the way who are helping you and making sure that you continue on. So that when you are working towards something in any capacity and you just feel completely drained in every way, where you don't feel fed, everything, all the signs around you are saying, you know what, this is just not the right thing. And in your spirit, kind of like what Ivy was saying about intuition, your soul, your gut knows that something just isn't right. That is when allowing for ourselves to take a deep breath, take a step back, and ask, where am I supposed to go? Where am I supposed to be? Is there something that I'm doing where I can maybe take part of it, a piece of it, and move forward with it? And also, Ivy also, I think, has a mini class on timing as well. Sometimes it's a matter of timing with opportunities. And even if something is meant for us, if it is not our time to do that particular thing, it could be a hobby, it could be a career, it could be an opportunity. We know, it's like we can feel that our name is on it, but it's just not time yet. And if we force it during a time that it's not meant for us, it will drain us as well. So accepting all of that, and the answers will come.
That class is called Divine Timing, when to make a move.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance too, because everybody has a bad day, you know, or you're discouraged, but ultimately at the end of the day, like Danny said, it's going to come back to feed your soul. You know, and maybe, you know, maybe you say, you know, okay, God, or, you know, whatever you believe in, I'm going to give it to you. And then you let me know, you give me a sign. And, you know, it's usually pretty clear, but also, you know, standing in who you are and knowing who you are is also kind of key to that too, because if you don't know who you are, then it's really hard to know what path you're supposed to be on.
And I just want to play off of what Christina just said there about stopping and asking. If you're not sure, talk to the universe. You know, and that doesn't mean run to a tool. If you're not properly trained in tarot or using a pendulum or the rod, don't be running to tools. Ask the universe, okay, to show you so that you can feel it in your own soul, in your own spirit, in your own intuition. What exactly is right in your circumstance? And I think that one of the biggest areas we see this problem in is love. Being in love with someone else, typically a romantic partnership, you know, or a really intense family dynamic. And we just sometimes don't want to face what's there, is what I'm hearing. And I just think it's really important to not put on rose-colored glasses and to sugarcoat things. If it is codependent, if it is toxic, if it is enabling, if it is destroying you, if it is destroying your well-being, if it is going against self-love, self-respect, healthy boundaries, you're probably going the wrong way, okay? Let's not forget the basics too. Thank you so much. We will see you next week.